Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. This is Chili Games, and today I bring you, without trying to sound like a flamu intro, the Surrey, the Tier 6 British heavy cruiser. And I actually just recently got this yesterday from a crate. I ponied up and bought 5 crates, and lucky enough, got it. I wanted this ship because I've been playing Arena a little bit with the Devenger, and the Devenger isn't terrible. It's, for me, I describe it as a different flavor Pensacola. And I was obviously wanting the Surrey so I could get the Albemarle before, when it comes out. And I wanted to go ahead and grind the Surrey. So this is definitely my first impressions of it. I do have all 3 of the modules on there. 35,000 hit points. Pretty slow. I think I max out at 31.8 at some point in this video. Decent hydro, 4.2. It's pretty standard. And then the main battery reload is 12.5 seconds. I am actually running Fraser with double fire chance with Kuznetsov and Mikawa. If you do realize something that's really good about this ship is my detection is 9.4, and that's really not even speccing into it too heavily. I am only running Concealment Expert and Mikawa for the concealment, so as you can see, the concealment for this thing is very, very good. You can get, well, I put on Swirsky and I did get 9.1, but it felt kind of meh. And as my phone goes off during the video, nice. What was I saying? Detection. Yeah, pretty good. So I think you can use tier wit on this thing, and if I've calculated it out, if you do, let's see here, you do Concealment Expert, which is 10%, Mikawa, which is 6%, and Swirsky maxed out, which is, I believe, 5%, and then you used Fragile Threat on tier wit for minus 10% detection. I think you can get below 8 kilometer detection, which is pretty nuts. I wouldn't run it. It is pretty cool though. I think the detection is pretty solid anyways, and then I wouldn't want to waste the other inspirations. Speccing into it, I want to get the most out of the guns, and overall I think the Surrey's pretty decent. The AP, obviously, it is AP is pretty solid. The shell velocity feels pretty solid, especially in those 12 and under engagements. Belfast is max range here. Well, I guess my other inspiration is Kuznetsov. I did not go for beyond range. I feel like the return for investment shooting this ship at super long range isn't that great. I kind of wanted to use my detection as best I could and not just spam at the back of the map. So double Citadel there. Belfast is definitely a very lightly armored, but just saying the AP is pretty solid. And you'll get another chance to see the AP on the broadside California later in the game. Still definitely just trying out to see what the ship can do. Algeria gets smacked by Nagato. That was not a fun trip for him. What was I saying? What was I saying before that? Yes. So I am running the double fire chance. So I have 22% chance of fire with my 4 guns. And I'm using Kuznetsov to offset my not using beyond range. So I'm effectively, with the flag, with the 3% extra range from the flag, I'm really only missing out on like 1.4% range. And I think the range is pretty decent with this. And I guess the biggest thing that I have found with this ship is you do only have 8 guns, 4x2. Your reload is kind of meh. It's not terrible for the tier, I guess. For 203s, it is 12.5. I was using another build with Fraser that was getting me, I think, 11.1. But I decided to go for fully packed, to go for the triple heal and the extra plane and sonar. So 12.5 isn't terrible. But what I was finding is the HE is pretty good, but even with a 20% chance of fire, your rate of fire is very low, and the amount of guns that you have is pretty low comparatively as well. So your fire chance, to me, just wasn't hitting as often as I would like it. And that's probably just me being a little bit too used to probably Mogami and Mayoko with the 25% chance of fire with the 2 extra guns, I might add. So that is kind of my build, I will say. So the thing that I'm worried about for this line is where is it going to fall in the meta. Now, obviously every ship that comes out, every line that comes out, we don't want it to be just stupidly strong. We don't want the Russian cruisers with EOP, Cleveland, like every single update. But I do want the ships to be somewhat competitive, and I do think that the British heavies are competitive. Devonshire, Surrey, and hopefully the Albemarle. I just don't see where I would pick them over others, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The whole time that I've played this ship, I have felt that it has a lot going for it. The detection, it has pretty decent health pool with 3 heals. They're not crazy heals, but you have heals at tier 6, which is only you and a handful of other ships. So you have that in that regard. I think the offense is a little... I think it's middle of the pack. I think if I could best describe the Surrey, it feels like a York with heals, with a little bit better shell velocity and flight trajectory of the shells. So I think it's better than the York. Plays somewhat similarly, I guess. Has certain trade-offs, whatever. But I'm basically going to be using this game to kind of make predictions about the tier 7 as well, the Albemarle. So, as you can see from the armor view, the Albemarle has 25 millimeters of armor, which is kind of scary, meaning that basically everyone can overmatch you. Alaska at 305 and Odin with the 305s can't. You can bounce them, but every battleship is going to be able to overmatch you and wreck you. The Citadel on the... I'm just going to say the tier 7 because I don't want to butcher that name 100 times. The tier 7 has a super massive Citadel. It literally goes like almost halfway up the side of the ship, and these ships do not sit very low in the water. As you can see, the sides are big. It's not London big like tier 5, but it's kind of close. So the tier 7 has some benefits over than the Surrey. I think the detection on the Surrey is way better. I think the stock detection for the Surrey is 11.4 and the tier 7 is 12.5. So not stupid, ridiculous concealment, but still very good. My biggest thing is, with these ships, HE is definitely the name of the game. The HE is pretty good, and the fire chance is obviously right there with it. I feel like when I play the tier 7, I'm going to be asking myself, like, oh, that was a fun game, but like, if I wanted to shoot HE and be really, really effective with HE, why didn't I just use Mogami, or why didn't I just use Cleveland, or, whatever. So that's kind of what I kept asking myself when I played this ship, the handful of times that I've played it so far, probably like 10 games or so. I think it's decent, but I would always get to the end of the game and be like, man, I feel like I kind of had to work for that. And like most of my games have been around like 100,000, 80,000, barely squeaking out 80K. And I just feel like the offense is kind of very, very middle of the pack, not stupidly crazy, decently consistent. And you're going to have to work around that with everything else. But altogether, I think the ship is pretty decent. I haven't had a really, really good game. This was actually the first game that I really kind of found some decent talking points about it. And just kind of, obviously this isn't a very challenging game here. The team is just being wiped, but getting a chance to see all the things kind of in action here, especially the firepower. To me, firepower means a lot. If you don't have a lot of firepower, it's going to be very hard to contend at tier 7 and Tier 6 is even kind of getting up there as well. But I like to dish out as much damage as possible and as effectively as possible, if that makes any sense at all. So it's a little bit iffy for me on the British heavy cruisers. Certain times they're pretty solid, but I haven't really come across any sort of engagement where I was like, man, that was only possible with these cruisers, or, you know, this HE is hitting very hard. But when the HE hits hard, I'm just like, yeah, I could have done that with other ships as well. So in terms of anything super duper special, I haven't really seen it, but altogether they're not terrible. I think they are way better. I am enjoying them a lot more than the Italian cruisers. Again, I will not touch the Italian cruisers till they get sap, and I don't care if that is a year from now. I would hope it wouldn't be, but I'm not playing a ship when they aren't even fully released in the way that they're supposed to be intended to. So, wondering about the AP. Aiming high, we're not aiming waterline on the California. Let's see what goes. The dispersion is pretty solid for these ships, 8,500 there. Pretty decent salvo. All 8 shells hit. One overpinned actually, probably went through the superstructure named high. And pretty consistent results. Let's see, I wasn't really watching. 3K there, nothing too crazy. And if you are wondering about the auto aim in the game, I am clicking the left trigger here, and I adjusted that shot there a little bit to adjust for his speed. But if you are still denying that there is auto aim in the game, then you are obviously not playing the game enough, or just don't know about it. Auto aim is in the game. And that's pretty much going to end this game here. We don't get a double strike here, but overall, I think the Surrey is pretty decent. I'm excited to see what the Tier 7 brings. I am quite scared to see how the Tier 7 actually fares. But all in all, not a bad ship. The Devonshire is pretty nice as well. As always, I hope y'all are having a fantastic day / night, and I will see y'all in the next one. Y'all take it easy. Peace, guys.